Hello and welcome to London Guided Walks podcast. In the coming episodes, we will be sharing our love and passion for London, its people, places and history in an espresso shot with a splash of personality. For those of you who don't know me, I am Hazel Baker, founder of LondonGuidedWalks.co.uk, providing guided walks, private tours and treasure hunts to Londoners and visitors alike, and now bringing you a jam-packed podcast during the time of the coronavirus. Music halls can be traced back to the taverns and coffee houses of 18th century London, where performers sang and songs while the audience ate, drank and joined in with them. I'm sure for those of you who've been on my Road to Ruin tour, Sadler's Wells comes to mind. Joseph Grimaldi was a superstar in Georgian, London. He was so popular that he performed at Sadler's Wells Theatre and also Drury Lane in Covent Garden in the same night, and had to run between the two venues, and of course characteristically made a bit of a spectacle of this endeavour. By the 1830s, taverns had rooms devoted to musical clubs, where they presented Saturday evening sing-songs and Free-and-easies, which were informal entertainments for amateurs and professional performers, and these happened all the way into the early hours of the morning. These evening sing-songs became so popular that entertainment was put on 2 or 3 times a week. They were Britain's first mass entertainment, emerged, broadly speaking, in the mid-19th century and ended, arguably, after the First World War, when the halls rebranded their entertainment as variety. One of the most famous early music halls was the Eagle in London. The Eagle was an East End tavern on the corner of City Road and Shepherdess Walk that presented regular music entertainment and was doing a roaring trade by 1854. Marie Lloyd, who would become one of the biggest music hall stars, first appeared there in 1885 at the age of 14. Today there's an Eagle pub on the spot, and that displays old music hall prints inside. Other famous music hall performers you may have heard of are Florrie Ford, Charles Chaplin Sr., the father to Charlie Chaplin, Arthur Lloyd, George Formby and Nellie Power. Variety shows in London still continue today, often with venues with a single doorway leading out into the street. Some are steeped in history and others are making history today. Joining me today is international showgirl, singer and burlesque queen Ivy Paige. Hello and welcome, and thank you for taking the time out to do this.
Oh, my absolute pleasure.
I've seen you on so many stages in London. Some of them, so many iconic ones. And Café de Paris as well. I think I've seen you twice there.
I love Café de Paris.
You know you're in for a good time just because the venue is so gorgeous. I suppose my first question to you is, what's been your favourite London venue to perform at?
Do you know what? Each venue has its own kind of histories and feeling and atmosphere. So I like, I suppose, the different venues for different reasons. I would kind of, when you're talking about all those different venues, I feel like I'm being taken back and like the smells and sounds. And I think for me, I have certain different career highlights, which is possibly why I enjoy performing in certain venues.
Mm-hmm.
And many venues have given, it's not just the shows that we've done there, it's the friends that I've made doing the shows that have become lifelong friends. A massive career highlight would have had to have been performing at Hammersmith Apollo.
Yeah, that was an awesome night.
I'm never going to forget the feeling of walking up and seeing my name outside. I was like, I've made it. But certain venues I love performing in, got the size of the Hammersmith Apollo, for example, and then you might have something so much smaller, completely on the other end of scale of that. Got Cellar, which is right opposite the Lion King, where the Lion King is, Zero Aldrich, where it is. And that's been going as long as I've been doing this. So for over 10 years.
Converted toilet, wasn't it?
Well, exactly. Talk about the histories of the venues in London. Cellar used to be a toilet. They say it was frequented by certain well-known literary figures. I don't know if that's just urban legend. Again, I love performing in there. And then I also have a residency at the Phoenix Arts Club.
Yes.
Which I host a show there called A Night in Soho. We do that every Sunday night, although not at the moment. And I love performing there, Again, you're just kind of right in the middle of, you're right in it. You're right in the heart of London, in the middle of Soho. For me, it just feels utterly perfect for cabaret. My first ever performance as Ivy Paige in London was at the Raymond Revue Bar.
Oh, was it?
Yep. and it was at the Raymond Revue Bar in 2006. Oh my God, I've been doing this a long time.
Really?
Yeah, for 2006 or 2007. And I hosted a show called I think it was called British Bombshells or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all World War II kind of themed. And it was from that show that I actually ended up getting certain opportunities that really launched me in London. I met a stage manager there. It was a guy called Sean Mooney, who's actually become one of my very close friends. And he was managing the show, and he said, "Oh, it's my birthday party in a couple of weeks. I'd love you to come and perform." And that show at the Raymond Revue Bar was the first show I'd ever hosted, specifically in the role of the host as Ivy Paige. So I went and did Sean's birthday party, and that was in a venue in London Bridge, in the tunnels.
Oh, really? Yes.
Yeah.
I've done pop-up theatre there.
Yeah, so it was his birthday party, and Sean was a technician in the West End, so he had lots of very fabulously talented friends who all performed at his birthday party, and some of those friends happened to be the Papini sisters.
Oh!
Yeah, and they did a couple of songs at his birthday celebrations, and I was hosting the show. And afterwards, they were like, "We thought you were fabulous. Would you come and perform for us at our show?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And very much that early on in my kind of stage in my career, I am a yes person. I like accepting the opportunities and kind of going on the adventure. Lo and behold, that opportunity ended up. I brought them on where they were at the Shepherd's Bush Empire. And I got to perform at their show and then present them with a disc, which was for selling, huge amounts of records. And then I was their support act. All the venues kind of link into each other in a way.
Yeah, yeah. But what's it like backstage at some of these places? Because I've only done mine performing back in the day with some of the bigger venues, Royal Albert Hall, which was just, all whitewashed and just smelt of sweat most of the time. Some of these smaller venues like Café de Paris, what's it like backstage? Is it minute?
Yes, as with all theatre, it's all smoke and mirrors. So it's very glamorous on stage, but it's not like that backstage. I'll give you an example. I did a performance for the Sotheby's auction house, and that was at the Shadow Lounge in Soho. And they were selling Banksy paintings. And there were every single A-list celebrity in London at the time, and there were Hollywood celebrities there too, where it was at this charity auction. I'd never ever been in a place where I'd seen quite so many A-list famous people. Our performing job was to recreate in the old-fashioned kind of burlesque style tableau vivants of famous paintings.
Right, yeah.
Hence it being Sotheby's. So with that in mind, and all the money available, floating around at this venue, first of all, we were asked if we'd like to get changed next to the paintings that they were auctioning off. And I remember looking at them and I said, "We're burlesque performers. We've got loads of glitter and makeup. Are you sure you want us to be next to a painting that you're going to sell for 250?
There's a lot of glitter involved.
There's a lot of glitter. Your painting will not look like that by the time it goes on the stage." So the other option was we were bundled into the men's urinals with a couple of bottles of champagne. So,
were you given any glasses?
We probably should get out of the bottle. No, we were drinking this incredibly expensive champagne whilst getting changed in the men's urinals, while outside everybody's bidding hundreds of thousands of pounds on paintings. So I feel like that's a really good example of what it's like. But the camaraderie is my favourite, and particularly on the burlesque and cabaret scene. There's always generations of performers. So I'm part of a generation. Before me, there were generations. So you kind of grow up with each other. By the very nature of variety shows, they're ever changing, but there becomes like a variety and cabaret burlesque family of some sort, because there are only so many of you.
Yeah.
In my experience, it's all very positive. Like, obviously with show business, there's a certain amount of rivalry and, competition. That's the very nature of the job. But actually backstage, amount of times where you've had things like you've forgotten one nipple pasty, so you have to borrow someone's, or, you're using gaffer tape to fix your pants, or you're borrowing someone's eyelash, or someone lends you a necklace because they think, oh, you just need something else. There's a lot of camaraderie backstage.
It's not done for the money. This is done for the love of the art itself.
Without a doubt, I think particularly many different areas of performance, but in the area of burlesque and cabaret, it's like if you choose to do burlesque and cabaret, you're doing it because you love it and it's important to you and it's who you are.
Yeah.
you're certainly not doing it for the money.
No.
Although, I've sustained, been my career for 14 years, and this is what I do. I don't have another job, so you can make it sustainable.
History of your career is quite varied, isn't it? So
Yeah, it's interesting.
Because I met you first, or saw you first, when you were doing sort of like the compare and doing songs in between. Then I saw you again, and you were sort of like one of the main acts. You were holding your own on there, and of course you're single, which I actually own.
Thanks.
Queen of Hearts. So you've tried different things, haven't you, to try and find your.
I think as a performer, you have to evolve. If you're staying in the same place, for me, that's not how art works. Art is constantly changing and moving, reacting to what's happening around us. Obviously, right now, we're going through this huge historic event. Yeah. So obviously, my art is adapting and changing to it. And whilst the circumstances around it are actually horrific, one of the things I love about art is that we can say something, we can use it to define and create and comment and entertain during these times. So for me, yes, my career has been varied and it has changed. I think one of the constant things is, how I see the role of Ivy Paige is it's like she kind of evolved. So she's been evolving, and from when I first started out as Ivy Paige, yeah, you're right, I was a compere and kind of working out what my style as a compere was. I trained as an actress and I trained in comedy and singing. So I always knew I had kind of quick improvisational skills, really able to think on my feet. I have a natural stage presence. So I kind of fell into the role of the compere. Mm-hmm. And I always knew that I would be a talking character on stage. But in terms of my career, obviously, 2 years ago, I was on The Voice, mm-hmm. which was another big step and big change, which was fantastic. It gave me a huge amount of opportunity and a mass level of exposure. And all the news stories were quite scandalous, which I thought was perfect. As a cabaret burlesque performer, I couldn't have asked for any better publicity.
I'm so sorry for poor Ollie, really.
Oh, he didn't have a chance, did he?
No, he didn't.
He was good fun, though. He was really good fun.
One of the historic things that music hall performers were known for doing, and also comedy acts in London, was packing in 2-3 venues a night. Is that something that you do or used to do?
Yeah, no, it's funny. Like, if I'd have said to myself, when I first started this, the thing that you're going to need to invest in more than anything is a decent suitcase, mm-hmm. because you're going to spend half of your time dragging it across London and around the country and around the world as you go between gigs. Yes, but I'll give you this example. Last year at the Edinburgh Festival, I did 92 shows in 26 days.
Whoa.
And that was doing 3 or 4 gigs a day.
How do you do it?
A lot of caffeine. Champagne. No, last year at the Edinburgh Festival, it was like a marathon of shows. It was fantastic. I mean, it sounds an awful lot and it is a lot of hard work and energy, but it's what I love. So I couldn't think of anything else I'd rather be doing.
And what's the easiest London venue that you've performed at where you thought, it's that you've got them as an audience? Is it the bigger stuff or is it the more intimate ones where you can see the whites of their eyes?
I actually think it's more terrifying than smaller venues. I mean, I love them all and they all have their own merit. When you perform to a crowd of 2,000, you have to perform as if there's only 5 people there. That's how I do it. And you have to try to find a connection in that way. There's something quite magical when you hear that amount of people laugh. That's really a real moment. Like you say, when you're performing, for instance, at the Phoenix or Cellar or even, rest in peace, Madame JoJo's, when you're up close and personal and you hear the roar of the crowd or the deathly silence if your joke doesn't work, that is extraordinary as well. And I think that's one of the things I love about cabaret.
Do you remember Madame JoJo's being so small, and I couldn't believe how small the stage was as well. Some of the acts couldn't do their full thing because of the size of the stage. But also,
there was a low ceiling height, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, and then also you could see the acts coming in and out with their suitcases, as you just said. Like, try love, I'm off to the next one. So
I know when you leave a show and like you've taken your makeup off, I always used to like put my coat over my head and like I don't know what to see. I was gonna say I miss Madame JoJo's. I did some of my very, very first show. I performed there for years, but I did some of my very first cabaret shows there. And obviously that's got a huge amount of history, that venue.
Yeah.
I think it's very sad. It's not there anymore, is it?
No. So I was just thinking about, you mentioned about the situation that we're in at the moment, and you're very talented. So what is it that you're doing now, and how can people join you?
So I'm doing lots of stuff online. I mean, really do enjoy the live performance experience, but you have to adapt and change, and that's one of the beauties of art. So right now I'm doing a show called Ivy Paige's Daily Briefing, putting the bra into Cobra. And that's going to be streaming next week. And I've also been doing a completely different style show, like a daytime chat show, very much more, it's not late night cabaret, but a real kind of coming together, chat, warmth, connection. I think we've done like 28 of those shows, and that's called Ivy Paige's Tea and Biscuits, although I know some of my viewers prefer to drink gin out of teacup. But that on Facebook, I stream that on Facebook Live, and that's at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And there's a group for that, Ivy Paige's Tea and Biscuit.
And all the links for Ivy Paige's Facebook group, etc., will be in the show notes as well, so check it out. That's all from us for now. Don't forget to visit londonguidedwalks.co.uk/podcast for more detailed show notes, including photos, blog posts and recommended reading. You can support this podcast by subscribing, following. It means the absolute world to me. And if you enjoy the podcast, then please consider leaving a 5-star review on the platform of your choice. And many thanks in advance.